Good morning and welcome to the Propeller Club of Northern California. I'm Stas Margaronis, and we have as our guest today, Cees Van Pelt, Manager, Technical Operations, Rotterdam Shortsea Terminals. I have given him a very heavy load of issues to discuss with you today. Most specifically, he's going to discuss the issue of container crane security. Cees's terminal, RST, does utilize ZPMC cranes made in China that have been the subject of some concerns about whether there are security issues, and Cees will be addressing that. Before we get started, I want to begin our introduction so that Cees and you know who is here. And as is my usual practice, I introduce my good friend, Todd Crawshaw. Todd, good morning.
Good morning. With Crawshaw Design, we have IT support, website design, development, and many more things. So.
Thank you. Cees, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Cees Van Pelt, working already for quite a long time for RSD, more than 35 years, and I'm in the sport industry. Started as a mechanical engineer and worked my way up till technical manager of the department of first RSD and later on Uniport. And since 1.5 years, I'm a senior project manager, and I'm busy with sustainability projects, new building projects of cranes, but also second-hand cranes to purchase. So a lot of spent in my job.
Okay, very good, Cees, and we'll come back to that in just a second. Captain Ann McIntyre. Captain, good morning.
Sorry, good morning. I'm trying to get my camera. Good morning. Nice to see everybody. I'm Ann McIntyre. I'm the business director for the San Francisco Bar Pilots.
And a board member of the Propeller Club of Northern California. Thank you very much, Ann. I have C. Shaw. Could you introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm Curtis Shaw. I'm with the Pacific Maritime Association in San Francisco. I'm Associate Coast Director of Accident Prevention and Security. I'm interested to hear what we're going to have to hear today. Thanks.
And Curtis, we have labor peace this year on the West Coast, correct?
Currently.
Thank you, Curtis, and welcome and good to see you again. And speaking of labor peace, we have the retired Director of Organizing for the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, Peter Olney. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you, Stas. Peter Olney, retired ILW. I currently work with a network of young organizers who are organizing Amazon. Talk about taking on a gigantic challenge, but glad to hear we have temporary labor peace.
Peter, thank you very much. Susan Duran. Susan, good morning.
Good morning. Susan Duran with FlexiVan, responsible for chassis in the Port of Oakland, Bay Area, and also the PNW. I'm happy to join and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Evie Wong. Evie, good morning.
Good morning, Stas. Good morning, everyone. Evie Huang. I'm a customs broker and board member and chairman of the Customs Brokers Forwarders Association of Northern California and a proud member of a Propeller Club. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Evie. Thank you very much. Kevin Policarpo. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Stas. And hello to everyone else. My name is Kevin Policarpo. I work as Stas's research assistant for anything related to maritime work or whatever he finds interesting that comes up he wants me to do work on.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Okay, so Cees Van Pelt is somebody that I have known for a number of years. He is at Rotterdam Shortsea terminals. He's going to explain what that is in just a second. As a result of a number of issues that, including the ones raised by the Biden administration about container crane security, there have been a number of investigations by different terminals to see if they have any security issues. A Wall Street Journal report several weeks ago said that one terminal had found modems on a crane or a couple of cranes that were built in China. I decided to contact Cees and ask him if he could give us some guidance about what the situation was and what kind of a security situation we might be facing. And he is going to discuss with us that issue, give us some background about Rotterdam Shortsea terminals. It's a very interesting terminal. It operates with a wide boom crane that allows it to unload the ship, have the crane, the containers underneath the boom, and then allow trucks to be directly loaded by the container crane operator once the ship has departed. And there's also a function to move containers in a cradle to the rail line. Cees will provide more detail on that in just a second. Before we go to Cees, I just see that Sung Lee, the new president and chair of Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders of Northern California, is here. Sung Lee, would you like to introduce yourself? Sung, are you there? Calling once, twice. Okay, we'll assume that he will get back. Cees, thank you very much for joining us. It is 9 hours ahead of us. You're 9 hours ahead of us. And we decided to hold this at 10 o'clock so you'd have a decent shot at getting your dinner. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Stas. Thank you for this introduction of me. Indeed, it's already evening. The working day is already finished here in Holland, so but like to do this with pleasure. I want to take you today from who is RST, what do we do? Want to talk about security for cranes and equipment. And that security in principle starts by yourself. So by the company itself, that's the most important thing I want to discuss with you today. And I want to show you a bit from what we do in Rotterdam with zero emission and how we struggle with getting new labor in, especially technical labor. So, but first, I want to introduce myself. Maybe we can see that already on the slides which are coming. Cees Van Pelt, already 35 years here in the port industry. As I said, I'm started as a mechanical engineer, worked my way up. So I know what it is to be out on the terminal itself and gone through the whole process of technical department to maintain cranes, to build them and to keep them in the air. Since the last 1.5 years, I'm only doing projects. That means sustainability projects, but also other developing for, let's say, brownfield. We are now in the fact of having a part of our terminal to be getting more feeder. What I try later on to explain is that our terminal is in principle divided in two separate operations. One is a more so-called deep sea operation with, let's say, vessels up to 3,500 TEU. And then we have a so-called Shortsea operation where we are very famous on in the northwest of Europe, because we have, as Rotterdam, a very good connection to, let's say, Scandinavia, but also to the south in Spain and to the hinterland, which is now nowadays going up to Italy and Poland. As I said, I'm working on several projects. Shore power is one of them as a sustainability project. That's quite a challenge, especially in Rotterdam, where we are on an old quay in the center. So infrastructure is not fully equipped for that, and the demand of power, that's another problem what we have. And I assume that's nearly the same in your place as it is in ours. Rotterdam Shortsea terminals, a bit background of it. So what you can see on the next slide is an overview of, that's the next slide after this one. That's the overview photo from our terminal, located in the center of Rotterdam. And probably you have heard from the Maasvlakte, which we developed 20 years ago. And that was nowadays, especially for the big vessels. On the Maasvlakte, we can handle, let's say, the vessels up to, what is it nowadays, 25,000 TEU. But we are dealing with vessels up to 3,500. We are, of course, restricted by bridges and tunnels, which are near Rotterdam. So that's why we are located now on, let's say, the former terminal of RST, of ECT in the early days when container operations started late 60s. The advantage of this area is that it's not only container area, but it's a combination of import and export containers from all over Europe, especially also a bit for feeder handling, but inland waterways from here, that's also very good. So we do till 5 till 10% of our incoming containers or outgoing containers are going by barge, so the inland motorway. And we have a train terminal in the back of RST, which is running all up to Italy and far into Germany and Poland, which is accommodating 25% of all our traffic. And the rest is done by truck. So what we see is that train and barge is growing the last couple of years, and that truck is still on the same level. So what we see now is that 65% is done by truck, and the rest is done by barge and train. For the rest, we have cold sheds, cross-docking, so we can handle fruit. We have in our neighborhood a very large grocery and fruit distribution center, which is, I think, 80% all export into Europe, what we accommodate. On the next slide, you can see the capacity we have as an RST. Here is 1.2 million containers, but if you translate that into TEU, then it's nearly 2 million TEU what we can do. So we have still capacity to grow. On the moment, we are handling nearly 1.3 TEU. And that is mainly the reason that we dropped down because of the Russia war with Ukraine, which is now already over 2 years busy, and that affected us quite a lot. So we had quite a drop down for that. Our operation is equipped with.
Cees, I'm sorry. What are you right now? What have you dropped down to right now?
We came from nearly 800,000 containers to 650,000 containers 1.5 years ago. We are climbing a bit up, but the effect of that is still visible in our terminal, and the trade with Russia is not coming back, of course. Yeah, we are quite affected for that one.
Your projection for this year, what are you projecting for 2024?
We are going for let's say 725,000 containers. So that means that we have still a growth for this year projected from, let's say, 75 till 100,000 containers. And that's not only natural growth, that's also a bit new development, and we have a new customer. So that means that traffic is coming from another place in Holland, and what we now added to RST. For that, what I already told you, we have two separate operation. One is a so-called more feeder or deep sea operation, handled by straddle carriers in the backyard. Recently, we added 6 new hybrid straddle carriers to our operation as the first step to, let's say, get rid of the diesel machines. And we planned within 2 years from now to get fully electrical straddle carriers in to handle our containers in the backyard. For the rest, the wide span concept, where you already mentioned something about, is a special concept. If you go to the next slide, you see a bit the photos from it. Those cranes on the water side, they are not doing only the vessels, but they are also doing the stack underneath, and in the backyard they have the lorries for loading and unloading, and I will explain you to a drawing on the next slide. But first, when you look these photographs, you see on the right photo below that the waterside crane is equipped with an RMG in the backyard, and between those two cranes there is an invented system by ourselves, and we call that the multi-tainer. But the multi-tainer is a system which can transfer by only one push via winch containers from the waterside crane to the landside crane. And the big advantage is why we invented it is that in the early days we had import and export containers on our waterside cranes, underneath our waterside cranes. But due to the growth and we had no space anymore, we had to make a split. And that could only doable by taking in and export containers separate from each other. And we didn't want to have an interference by the crane in the backyard. Because if you look to the next slide, and I will show you then the drawing from it, you see on the water side the vessel. And if that vessel is coming in, the containers are coming off, they will directly be transferred to the landside back reach. Drop down on the multi-tainer, and then by one push, the multi-tainer can be transferred to the landside crane, where the import containers will be stacked underneath that crane, and the empty containers will even go one position further on, fully to the left. The big advantage is now, because those two cranes are driving over 120 meters a minute, and you don't want to have any interference from one or the other. So this system is in replacement of the reach stacker or the empty handler, what you call, but this is some sort of an automation system between those two cranes, which is very simple, very helpful, and that makes it far more efficient. And by this system introduction in 2005, we could handle 50% more containers than before that time. So this is what we then so-called the famous wide span ship-to-shore crane system. You don't see that very much all over Europe. It started already in the late 60s by George Bell. A lot of inland container terminals all over Europe are working this way, not with the facility cranes in the backyards. But for the rest, you don't see that very much out of Europe. But that's why we are the, let's say, the special famous Shortsea terminal all over Europe. And we are, I think, number one in Northwest Europe for this one. If you then see what we all introduced to get, and that's on the next slide, to speed up this operation anymore, because in the early days we still had drivers who came in and spent it more than 1.5 till 2 hours to pick up a container. That dropped down since let's say the last 3-4 years by introduction of a system where you have only a badge. You come to our front door, and in principle, if you are having, let's say, a pre-announcement, what is now in most terminals already common, and if you have a pre-announcement that you come to pick up a container, then it's only a matter of driving to the gate via OCR and that sort of things. The driver will be allowed face recognition. That's nowadays a very good alternative for the finger phone we had in the first place. For security, he has a card where he has all his data on, and then he gets now a tar code which he has to brought into the system, and then he will be guided by and we have still a printed note, but we want to go to, let's say, a digital note which he can collect from the screen, and then he drives straightly to the place where the container is. And with this new system, the turnaround time dropped till 40-45 minutes on the terminal. Advantage of that is that the drivers who are nowadays limited with working hours, so they have still time left for more driving time. On our side, the driver desk is not needed anymore. We have now only a small help desk which is come in place, because still you have some containers which are not good pre-announced or that sort of things, or the driver did his pre-announcement not right. We have still a lot of drivers which are not coming out of, let's say, Western Europe, but also from Eastern Europe, and nowadays even from India, the Philippines, or whatever. So, and you can imagine that those people don't have any clue. They can only drive, and they don't even speak the language, even not English. So that's quite a problem, but still we manage that. Drivers' lanes are now nearly empty. So we had in the past a lot of lanes in front of the gates where we can position trucks, which we don't need anymore. And that's a big advantage because we are now restructuring the terminal, and we have more space for operational container handling. So quite a lot of options, advantage came from that new introduction. It costs something, but in the end it pays off. We already talked a bit about the Shortsea model, and the Shortsea model is also a multi-model system, especially the connection with the rail, connection with the inland waterway, and on our terminal in the backyard, you can see that on the next slide. There is the rail terminal projected. That's in principle handling 25% or over 25% nowadays from our in and export containers from all over Europe. But to get those containers from RST to the rail terminal, we also have special trains for that, the so-called road trains. It's a bit like Australia, where they have a lot of trailers behind each other. And this is also what you can see on the later pages, which I show you later on. But one of the things we now facing with the rail connections is that the grow is a bit blocked because we have a lot of strikes nowadays in Italy because they want more money. That's a bit the southern of Europe, which is always complaining about a shortage of money, and they want more and shorter working, that sort of things. But also one of the problems is the tunnels, especially the Gotthard tunnel, which is the connection between Switzerland and Italy. And we had a couple of times some safety issues like fire and that sort of things. So for a longer time they were blocked. And therefore that connection is not that stable. And that's not so attractive for our customers. So that we need to pay a bit more attention, and hopefully that will be done throughout the EU, that they make that more safe, and hopefully the strikes will stop. So then that intermodal connection will climb in the next couple of years, because in the sustainability mode, that is one of the topics we want to lift up, of course, to get more trucks from the road. The connections you will find on the next slide. This is in the bullet in the middle. That's where RST is located, with RSC in the backyard as the rail terminal. But this is not only the connection for, let's say, the rail terminals. You can also project that on the inland waterways, which are also coming that far. So we are in a very good position that we are a hub to facilitate all intermodals. And you have to realize that our competition is not for Shortsea the vessels itself or the liners, but it's the train, it's the road, it's the ro-ro, all that sort of things where you can transfer a container if you do it by Shortsea outside, or by truck if you want to go to Spain via land. So there is our competition, and we try to develop as much as possible the intermodal ways, especially over water or by train. I told you already on the next slide that the transportation between the terminals is done by the so-called road train for that. It's in principle one terminal tractor with at least 4 trailers behind it. And that makes it very efficient, so that it's with one with one line to between the terminals, that you can take at least 4 containers with you. And already in Antwerp, you see that with empty containers, they do a double stock, so that they have even a double row on this kind of trains, that they are driving with 2 containers on top of each other. So in every way, we try to make it more efficient and whatever we can do. So this was a bit about RST, and I don't know if there are questions. If not, I'd like to take you with me with the ZPMC cranes and the security issues about it.
So we'll hold here. Does anybody have any questions? If you want to raise your hand, if you've got any questions for Cees at this point, I think that just to summarize, you've got the wide boom crane, which was the original technology. And then Cees told us that business got so busy that they had to start using the multi-tainer to move the containers to the midsection of the terminal so that they could then load the trucks from there. And you've seen the illustration. There's also a refrigeration warehouse there, Cees, is that correct?
Yeah, that's also in the backyard of the terminal. So that's close by on 200 meters from that.
Okay, and then you've got when you're going to the rail, you use this multi tractor, is that correct? Where you have multi-tray?
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
use that. You also
We have,
go ahead.
between the warehouses where you want to come in front of a dock, of course, you can only use one trailer behind your terminal tractor. But if you want to bring containers over from, let's say, the water side to the train, you want to do that as much as possible, containers to carry out. And we can do 4. But on the Maasvlakte, they are already busy with 5 or 6 because the terminal is a bit wider and they can handle more trailers behind each other.
Very good. So what we have is there's been a design by RST to incorporate a number of functions, the wide boom crane, the midsection for the multi-tainers, and that's for trucks, and then this function for the internal transportation between waterside and rail. And as Cees has said, this reduces the number of tractor, and he also said that the appointment system that RST has now uses face and fingerprint identification. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, that fingerprint identification is not as trustful as face recognition, because face recognition is done within 10 seconds and finger registration is going over a minute or even over going 60 seconds. So that's what we now are phasing out because there are too many faults and it takes too long a time. So that's why face recognition is much better and much faster and much safer.
And the time that the truck is on the terminal, you said has gone from an hour and a half to 45 minutes.
Yes, correct.
Okay, very good. Okay, any questions on this?
Just one question from me, Stas, for Cees. This is Matt LaFiandra from Ocean Solutions. Cees,
Hello.
what's the target range? Sorry, let me turn my camera on so you're not looking at a random person. What's the target range for your customer base? Do you find that the sweet spot for your business is an end user that's 50 miles away, 100 miles away, 200 miles away, or kilometers away, sorry, up to maybe 1,000? Kind of where do you find your customer base really settles?
In principle, we have a customer base which are, let's say, 5 till 10 vessel operators. And they have all over Europe their network where they are trying to get a cargo into in their containers. And what you see is that the more exclusive, let's say, the cargo is, the farther it comes away and can be done with containers. The more simple, the less value. You see that it's done by row, and that's a bit the disadvantage for, let's say, the multimodal thinking, because still those drivers are paid very low. The cost for those people, they are 3 till 6 months on the road in Europe, and they don't go home. and they're driving throughout all Europe with their trailers and trucks. So there is the competition, but as soon as it starts to have more value, risk higher, or that transfer lanes in time are such a way developed that you can do it by containers, then you see that it will be going through our terminal. So what you see now is that still our business, if you compare it to the whole business over Europe, we have, let's say, 25% of that is done by containers, and the rest is, let's say, low or ro-ro trailers. A bit is done by plane if it's a high value, but that is not that's nearly nothing. So and then it can be from Italy to let's say Poland, Scandinavia, doesn't matter, even till Spain.
Kees, in terms of inland, how far do you go inland?
We go by train up to, let's say, northern Italy.
Okay.
Then also, let's say, to the borders of Austria, half into Poland. We have also connections to the northern of Poland, but that's a bit the time issue. That can also be done when you are sailing out via the outside by the vessel itself. So that's a bit depending on what the customer is choosing and how high the value is from the loading and how quickly it has need to be transferred. So there is a choose for them.
And inland waterways, how far do you go on that?
Switzerland, France, let's say to half of Germany. So that's quite along, but the problem with that is that during summer, we have the last couple of years a bit low tide because there was too much sun and not that much rain in that period. Right. So then you see that it's affecting, and then it's shifting again to the trucks or to the train. So that's always finding the balance for that transportation mode. But they are now developing inland vessels who have only a minimum depth needed into the water so that they can sail during all seasons. So that's the new development on inland motorway vessels.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Good. Then I want to continue with the cranes. If you see the first slide from that, on the next slide, then yes, this slide, you see our water side. You see two vessels. That's up to 1500 TEU vessels, handled by two wide-span container cranes, and those cranes are built in China. Therefore, the discussion you have in your country about security is also raised on this side. But this discussion, I think, is a bit not going out of hand, but you need to see it in the right perspective. And what we have done is we built, in principle, the steel in China, and we have our own integrator here in Holland, which is using Siemens components, building his own software, and doing also the installation. But on the other hand, Siemens is using components from all over the world and is also producing components into China itself. The discussion about can they be monitored from China is, in the case of RST, a bit less. But if you're looking to, let's say, the most common ZPMC cranes, yes, they can be monitored by ZPMC. But you have to see that in the perspective of that it's not only ZPMC, but you have Kalmar, you have Konecranes. And what they do nowadays is they build cranes with systems, and they offer you as a customer also support. And electrical installations need to be held into operation, of course, and from time to time you have problems. And what will happen is that if there is a problem and a customer is then asking, in this case ZPMC, but it can also be Koni or Kalmar, can you help me out? And then he can be on a distance, for instance, in China, but also he can be in Scandinavia. He log into your system and then he can see into Ukraine what is the problem. And by guiding you, he can say you need to do this, or you have to replace that, and then you can fix the crane and bring it up to operation. On the other hand, yes, the crane is then connected to the network, and somebody can come into your crane. But also in RST, we have that same situation with the new high straddle carriers we bought. That's the same system we have on. Kalmar can support us from if we need to from outside, but only if we allow them. So you can build in protections that you give them clearance to come into your system to look into your cranes. That doesn't mean that they can see everything. That can only be that particular part in the crane that they can come into, and that's mainly then for data of, let's say, moves, hours, but is not coming into your system of the operational system, your TOS system, so they can't see data of what are you doing, which containers you have, or whatever. In principle, I see it like this. Nowadays, you can buy a refrigerator, and you can have already refrigerators which you can control by your telephone. So the only thing you have to do is put on the Wi-Fi in your network and then transfer that to your refrigerator. And if you are then in another city and you want to have that evening a colder beer, it's only a matter of going to your telephone and switch on the temperature to another level. But if it's not connected, they can't come in. So that's even also for the manufacturer of the refrigerator. So that's the same with cranes. If you don't allow them, they can't come in. So therefore, in my opinion, it starts with yourself, that security is what you realize. What do you want from the outside? It can be by separate systems, so that you have an operational system and an own private IT system in your company. That's already one step. And then you have some sort of stepstone service which you can put in, where you can say you can only have access if we allow you to. So there are many steps to bring in, and I think that most of especially the bigger terminals, have already done that. I think you can remember that Maersk had a couple of years ago a very big hack where they were out of operation for days, even weeks. And after that, everybody realized, and that was not because of ZPMC hacked them, but somewhere else, somebody maybe in Russia or somewhere, that they realize we have to do our security much better than we are doing it now, have done it till then. So also in RST, we are investing in training of people. So don't accept every email. Realize if you get an email from somebody who is asking for a code or whatever, is this normal? And when it's not normal, then send it to the IT department and they will say to you it's spam or not. So training, realizing people, but also getting every time up to date with the latest security technologies. And if you don't want, don't switch on your cranes to, let's say, the remote control operations. If you have then a problem, you can still call somebody and he will come to your terminal. Maybe it takes, let's say, a half a day or a day, but that's also a possibility. Still, what we still have. So it's not that you are obligated to have cranes to the network. It's what you by yourself like or not. So this is more or less the thing I try to say. Think about what are you doing with safety. And nowadays we have bought since 2006 cranes in China, and that was and now we are looking for a couple of new cranes again. But we are also looking to Europe again, and that's not only or that's not because of security reasons, but that's also because China is coming up with prices nowadays which are nearly more than the European normal prices for that one. So you see also that China has become much more expensive. Labor over there is going through the roof, and later on we will talk about people, but also in China, what I have experienced, labor is becoming more and more a problem, especially in the factories, especially dirty labor, like making cranes. That's not the cleanest work. You have to weld, there's smell, dirty hands and that sort of thing. And also people in China, the young people, are like the banking job, the assurance job, and the IT jobs, but the jobs in the factory, also over there, you see that there is becoming a more and more a gray layer instead of that young people are coming in. So this is also one of the reasons why we are looking into Europe, but especially also in Holland. We have a couple of companies in Holland who are willing to transfer from, let's say, the offshore market into the container crane market. And we are now hopefully developing a new Dutch crane again. The benefit for us is that we don't have to travel that much, because realize that if you buy cranes in China, you need to be there often, especially for to getting a good quality. That means a lot of control, need to be there to have an eye on it, to tell people, and especially also that you will be fooled in particular cases. And if you do it in Holland, then it's easy because you don't have to spend a lot of time in traveling. It's here around the corner. Hopefully, then it's only a day or 2 days in per week when you build a crane, instead of every 3 weeks you need to be there for 1 week. So that is also something why we think that coming back to Holland and build cranes here is better than doing it in China. And of course, we are using still systems out of Holland. So in that perspective, our security will be then secured on that way as well. Stas, is this also what you have in mind about this?
Yes, I think that actually this and this slide here actually summarizes what you said. I think you've covered that. I think that if I understand what you're saying, the terminal can define its level of security, and there is a remote control function which you can use or not use. And if you don't use it, then you just have somebody come and make personal visits. So
Yes.
there are things that, and then you said that the operating system for the crane, the terminal operating system, is based in Europe, and that is the key element. And you referenced the fact that Siemens is a major provider of components, and many people in the United States are using terminal operating systems like Navis. So we do have the operating systems often in either North America or in Europe, based on what you're saying. So there is a lot of security there, but you also referenced the fact that the Maersk hack of several years ago alerted people that they had to be much more vigilant about their security and taking a holistic look at how you might have vulnerabilities. And you mentioned telephones, but you mentioned emails and the need for those operations to be secure. And
Yes.
then lastly, if I'm understanding you, you're starting to look at sourcing your cranes in Europe, not because of security issues, but because of price issues. And in recent years, cranes have become more expensive coming out of China. And so you're looking at a European manufacturer to provide you with new crane technology. And you reference the fact that there may be a Dutch crane builder that you may be sourcing a crane from.
Yeah, correct.
Also
To give you an idea about the raise of price, the last crane we bought in 2018-19, that same crane we did a request for at the same company, and it was already 45% in even not 5 years time more expensive than at that time. So you see that the increase is tremendous on this moment.
Very good. I think that's very complete, and I thank you very much for that. So we were next going to talk about hydrogen, and I thought maybe you could start out by just explaining our ports in California, the ports of LA and Long Beach are adhering to a clean air action plan with a goal of eliminating zero emission trucks and container handling equipment. And I assume the Port of Rotterdam has some similar goals.
Yeah, that's correct. And if you see on the slides, they have made a plan with 4 strategic pillars for that. That's based on the different kind of trades we have in Rotterdam. It's not only a container terminal, it's also bulk. It's making industry, especially from oil making into products. We have a lot of companies for that. But on that point, so they have developed a strategy of efficiency and infrastructure. They want to develop a new energy system. So that means switching over to sustainable electricity or the green hydrogen. And in the green hydrogen, they want to make new infrastructure, partly based on, let's say, the old gas pipes who are already in the ground in Holland and all the way up to Germany, transfer them into hydrogen pipe transfer lines. So they have a couple of steps to make, and their goal is not that they have done that all by 2030, because that would be an enormous challenge to reach that. But this is a plan which need to be established, let's say 2040, 2045. That's the goal they want to make. And if you see all the projections, still crude oil will be used for a long time if you see all the studies about that. But especially here in Rotterdam and this part of Netherlands is one of the most polluted areas of Northwest Europe because of the concentration of industry, logistic companies and making industry. So they need to do more than, let's say, in the rest of Holland. And therefore they have this program developed. What we try to do as RST on our part is, of course, especially in the port industry. And this morning we had quite a long meeting about that, because we are in a process of having a reach stacker becoming operational on hydrogen. I know that this is not the first reach stacker which will be running on hydrogen, because there is already a first prototype running in Valencia, and we will have the second prototype. I know that there is in Long Beach a forklift truck which is running on hydrogen, especially Heister, which is quite a famous brand, I think also in the USA, which is trying to bring the hydrogen to life. But one of the problems is that when we started this project, how to get hydrogen into Rotterdam, where you can run the machine on. And that's quite complicated and expensive. So the plan was to bring it from Scandinavia into Rotterdam by trailers, because the thing is that if you want to do this pilot and you need the government for it, then it has to be also green hydrogen. So green hydrogen means, of course, that it has to be made out of wind or water or sun power. And you can imagine that on the moment that's not really much available in Holland to produce hydrogen. So, and then we came in contact with another company here in Holland, and he said, we can, what is now called, we can build you an energy key energy builder. In principle, that's a 40-foot container. It can't be better if you are a container company, a stevedoring company. And that container that is in principle utilized with an electrolyzer, which can produce 100 kilos a day. Then that must be stored, of course. That can be also done in that container. And it need to be on pressure, because the reach stacker will start to work on 350 bar hydrogen. So therefore, yeah, the next slide with the reach stacker is good. No, before that, this is already too far. So and this project is now coming to life, and the big advantage of this one is that if we have this one on our terminal, we can produce our own hydrogen for the reach stacker, and we start with a facility of 100 kilos a day. Now, we don't think that the reach stacker will consume that per day. So the thing is that around us, also already truck companies, but also the maritime industry is asking, if you are bringing that container to your terminal, can we also use the hydrogen which you have left? So we expect that as soon as this will come in operation by the end of this year, not only the project with the reach stacker will start, but also smaller project will be initiated to be started, and the first thing will be with trucks along the road, and that will be, of course, around Rotterdam, because there are not that many tank facilities. But This container makes it able, if it's going to work, and we expect that it will work, that as soon as you have not that much hydrogen needed, you can put the container wherever you like, and you can produce it in that location. So to start up and to make hydrogen become more and more common, we think that you need scalable units in some sort of a network spread out over Netherlands, and then the OEMs for, let's say, the port industry, but also the trucks and other logistic companies can then produce more equipment who can run on hydrogen. I have to say that there will be some sort of a split, because we think it's only for, let's say, the heavy port equipment, and not for, let's say, a 2 or 3 or 5 ton forklift truck. That will be still done by electrification. But as soon as you need more power, the bigger trucks, you can imagine that for operational reasons, when you want to operate a reach stacker, it's very handy when you put on a driver that it can operate at least 4 hours in one go between meal breaks. That you want to expect that also from when he is running on a battery. And what we see on the moment is that this type of truck, when you put in a battery, it needs to be charged after 2.5, or maybe when you are lucky 3 hours. And if you want to have, let's say, more operational time, you need a bigger battery, but then your machine would need to be bigger. So this kind of things are all complications which you can't have. So therefore there will be somewhere a split. So we think that reach stacker is a good product to run on hydrogen. Also for the straddle carrier, there is starting in Antwerp within a couple of weeks from now, the first hydrogen straddle carrier, where they have the same ideas about it. So you see that we are busy. How can we make it sustainable, and what is the best choice? So this is the first, let's say, project in our operation for which choice we have to make when it's 2027, when we have to change from the old reach stackers to a new batch of reach stackers. And is it then already that far that we can start with all hydrogens, or do we have still a phase in between? We don't know, but hopefully it goes faster and sooner, and that the hydrogen will be at that time more available also in places in Rotterdam. Because one of the projects Rotterdam is now busy with is making a pipeline from the Maasvlakte going into the hinterland, and in the end it will stop in Duisburg in Germany, and it needs to be spread out in the end all over Netherlands, so that you have like what we now have with the gas, that everybody can have gas on every corner or where he likes to have it. And that's also the idea behind the hydrogen network. But that can be done within 1 year. We need at least 5 till 10 years before it's realized. So therefore, we hope to get experience with, let's say, equipment on hydrogen. And we see that as one of the pilots to operate our port equipment.
So as I understand, you're still a couple of years away from getting lower cost and plentiful supply of hydrogen. So that during that transition period, this is still going to be an expensive operation, but you are finding some sources of hydrogen from Scandinavia, and the Maasvlakte project, is that a long-term solution to your supply? Is that the one where they're doing the electrolyzing from the wind farms?
Yeah, that's on the Maasvlakte they are building now, and that's especially the first one is for the factories in the Botlek. So therefore, they investing now 100 million euro or even 200 million euro to make a hydrogen electrolyze facility. And that's the first step, what Rotterdam is planning to get the factories from the gas and the oil into hydrogen to produce products for or raw material production. So this is the first step. But what they want to do is also that the pipeline can be filled by, let's say, hydrogen from Portugal or Morocco or Scandinavian or wherever, where they can produce it. So it's more that it need to become a trade, like what diesel is now. You can buy it wherever it's cheapest on the moment, bring it to Rotterdam, fill the pipelines, and then you have power all over the area. This is the idea behind it. But till then, and what we see on the moment is, and that's why the project is also very difficult to lift it up. The energy price for hydrogen is on the moment more than 3 times than for a diesel.
Right.
And if you compare it with the machines itself,
Yep.
A normal diesel machine in relation to electrified machine with a battery or a hydrogen machine, those two machines are twice as expensive as a diesel. So companies, they are not directly willing to invest in this new technology, of course, because the business case is not based on that one on the moment. So we need support from government. And we as RST, we think, because we are quite a big player in Rotterdam, we have also a role to play that on this case, we need to be, let's say, a front runner and to make it work.
Very good.
That's the idea behind it.
Okay. Cees, I think we've got to wrap up, but one question was left, which is the training and getting young people into the maritime industry. And
Yep.
Would you talk briefly about what your challenges are and how you're doing?
Yeah, the thing is, and you see that the last 5-10 years that we're getting less and less people into the maritime industry, but it's not only a problem of the maritime industry. It's especially in the western part of Holland that it's hard to get good people, and then operational people. That's hard, but still manageable. But if you then look to the technical people to get that in, and especially the younger one, that's a real problem. We struggle. Our technical department, we had a very gray layer over there, and the last 2 years, 10 people retired, and we still don't have 2 people back into that place. So you can imagine, and that's not only for RST, that's for a lot of companies around it, that this is the big challenge. How do we keep it all operational? And especially when I started, we had technology, of course, but the technology was more simple. The digitalization was not that far. And now you see that you need high qualified people to solve problems in your systems. And if you look to the schools nowadays, you don't find hardly any people on school who are studying technology. A bit more high-trained people, but they don't want to come to, let's say, our industry because they don't want to get into an overall and go up a crane and maintain that, or solve problems, because then they think that that's still dirty work. So this is quite a big challenge we have to solve, and I'm afraid that we don't solve that in the next 5 or even 10 years, what I see now. I don't know what it is over in your place, but
Yes.
here it's a big struggle.
Yeah, similar problems. How many people work at RST right now?
350, and we had a technical department of 38. And if you now look, we have only 28 on the moment, and still doing 24/7 operation. Sorry.
Okay, your technical department should have 38 and you only have 28, is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Keys, one last question. What are the job category in the technical department? What kind of jobs are there in that technical department?
I have, let's say, the mechanical guys, the electrical guys. Then you have, let's say, the more specialized electronical, digital, so they know also their way into internet. So the bus systems and that sort of things. And then you have a couple of specialized, which are doing civils, that kind of thing. So you have a variety, but most people is mechanical or electrical to keep it up and running.
Excellent. Okay, we are going to, I'll ask for questions one more time. Does anybody have any questions before we thank Kees for his time and voluminous and encyclopedic knowledge of the container terminal operation industry? Going once, going twice. Okay. Kees, this has been really excellent, and I cannot thank you enough. Peter, do you have a question? No, okay. This is a real education for us. We are moving in some of the same directions. We wish we were more multimodal. Our situation in Baltimore with the loss of the Francis Scott Key Bridge has warned us once again what happens when we don't have waterborne transportation and how disruptive that can be. I want to thank you very, very much for this excellent presentation. It is recorded. We will make the recording available for everyone. Todd usually takes about 24 hours, so sometime tomorrow that will be available. I want to thank everybody who participated. This is a subject that everybody right now, countries all over the world are having security issues, and they're also having issues with training and getting young people into the maritime industry. Cees Van Pelt, thank you very much from RST. Good luck this year. I hope that your projections are correct and that we all have a better and prosperous 2024.
Thank you. And I wish you all the luck and have a good day. And I will start my evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kees. Take care, everybody. Thank you all very much.